ladies and gentlemen, I am BorderWise, and welcome to From the Depths Most Wanted, The Singularity. Finally! Now, I know a lot of you have been looking forward to this particular episode of Most Wanted, and believe me, so have I. The Singularity has finally been updated, and Kneecap, one of the keepers of the lore who worked on this thing, was kind enough to provide me with the blueprint early so I could have a look at it, have a squiz, figure out what's changed, and how to adjust our strategies for it. But now it's in the main game, and you can sport it in, and it's all great deal of fun. And my intel image of this thing apparently has not updated, even though I just photographed this thing. So yeah, the Singularity, for those of you who don't know, is the single most powerful overall craft in the Scarlet Dawn faction of the game, the final in-game faction, and arguably, I'm still not entirely sure that it is, but it is definitely one of the most powerful vehicles in the game, full stop, because it's just, it is just all around dangerous, all around annoying, and just quite difficult to deal with if you are not very, very experienced with the game, and like know what you're dealing with. So we're just gonna go have a look at this thing all around. It's very pretty. The crew who worked on this thing really have outdone themselves aesthetic wise. It's just here, there, and everywhere. Lots of little details, lots of little things here, there, and everywhere. Lots of little tweaks. Similar to the old style Singularity in many ways, but also different in a lot of ways. It's got slightly different armament, it's got different defenses, and it like behaves slightly differently, but thankfully a lot of the things that I've worked out how to kill it with still work, so that's very nice. So, what is this thing? This is a front-sider. It is also a warp craft, so it teleports around quite a lot, so we're going to spawn in an indestructible Marauder, just so you can see what we're doing here. So, she warps, and so warp drives are quite a handy thing in From the Depths, because it means that you can just teleport around, and it really throws off the aim of a lot of things. Unfortunately, the Singularity, at the moment, it still has a habit of shooting itself. I'm not sure why it does that. I think it's because when it fires and warps at the same time, it does clip itself, which is unfortunate. So yeah, it's got big APS guns. Whoa. Wow, that's weird. That's weird. Ugh. Stop it. Ugh. So it's got big APS guns, big lasers, and that warp drive is its main form of defense. It warps a lot more rapidly than it used to, which makes it better against dodging some things and a lot worse at dodging some other things. We'll get into that. But yeah, that's basically it. It points towards the enemy, warps sideways to mess with detection systems, and zaps things with lasers and blows them up with big guns. So while we're in here, we're just going to destroy the Marauder. This is inside it, so right here, where are we? Ah, God, please stop doing that. Alright, so here we are in the innards of the thing, and it's got some neat stuff in here. Of Lions, Lions is one of the people who worked on that. Volsimus, the Devil's Advocate, little mannequins here in various stages of distress. Not sure why these guys are wearing. Oh my goodness! Not sure why these guys are wearing chef's hats. Why am I sinking into the floor? Stop it! No, damn it! Stop. Okay, can you stop moving? Wrong button. Okay, so tuned by Con, prettified by Talons. Teamwork makes the memes work. In no peace does the lemming rest. Praise be for necromancy. Yeah, I guess they did kind of revive this thing. I just learned that you turn. Oh, damn it! Come on, let's get there. We go. Okay. Oh, dear God, basement. This thing must be a real bugger to fly, because Rambot keeps sinking. Oh my word! Please stop doing that. Okay, we have to do this now. So there's the camera. We can see ahead of ourselves right there. And, yeah, what else is in here? Lots of cool stuff. Lots of ACBs, by the way. So, engages the warp drives. Activates every 9 seconds. Lots of stuff like that. Like, I'm not even going to pretend to say, like, I understand how this damn thing works. And, interesting. These control blocks don't do anything. They're just here. Oh, well. Mirror mode was probably left on, I guess. So, yeah, lots of people worked on this thing, and, let's get you out of the water. So, what are the strengths of this thing? Well, you probably can already guess a few of the strengths of this thing. It's basically immune to cram cannons simply because it warps around so much. Like, once I get this... Let's actually do this. And let's do this. So, let's go here. Scarlet Dawn, Singularity. We need the most crammy thing in the game. And that crammy thing is... the Great White. And we're going to spawn that west. Great White. And I'm also going to turn the game speed down a little bit. So my computer doesn't actually melt. So the Great White's also been a little bit updated, by the way, and, like, as of right now, I have no idea why the Singularity does that. I have been assured that the failsafes have been fixed, but, yeah, that's probably going to be tweaked, well, not to blow my own horn, but after this video comes out. As you can see, the lasers are going, those lasers are very strong, and, these shells, let's, wait, yeah, here we go. These are big shells. They are railguns, pen-depth railguns, with a whole crap ton of solid warheads, HE bodies, and 180-degree frag. They make a bit of a mess, so they quite happily punch deep into an enemy craft. Yeah, where'd that go? That went... yeah, that went right in there. Yeah, so armor isn't exactly a great defense against the Singularity, because both the lasers and those big APS guns, they can go through multiple meters of armor, so you can, to be sure, an armored craft will last a little bit longer against it, but not really going to make much of a difference. And as you can see, just crams are not going to work. They're not going to work at all. That warping just throws them off completely. And basically most kinetic weapons, be they, and by kinetic weapons I mean physical, actual, solid things, as opposed to energy weapons, that don't work very well against the Singularity, just for this precise reason. See, the Great White is already dead. Simply because of that warping. Slower APS shells are not going to do it, cram shells definitely not going to do it, smaller missiles not going to do it. Simply because of that warping, and also, let's spawn in the Singularity again, so we can have a look at it. Singularity, and so missile swarms don't work great against the Singularity either, because of that warping. But also, this is a new addition. It has a huge swarm of It has a huge swarm of missile interceptors under here. So these are small missiles, and they're as small as can be. But they're pretty strong, and like they activate missiles within 2,000 meters, and these work actually astonishingly well, simply because there's so many of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 20 times 4, 80, plus another 80 over there, 160 little missile interceptors. They do a pretty darn good job, so if we turn off all this and spawn in our... what's something that spams way too many missiles? Yes, Photal! So the Singularity is actually decently missile-proof, simply because of that warping, and also because it spits out a lot of missiles. Especially once it starts getting that distance. In fact, this is kind of the key to making good missile interceptors, is well, basically you have to... They work best on craft that move rather quickly, because that creates extra time for the missile interceptors to do something, and to actually do the work they're supposed to do. And as you can see, like, these missiles are not optimized for catching up to the Singularity, and so they're actually not going to reach it. So the Asphodel is going to have a bad day. And the Singularity has large missiles of its own. These... What are these things? These are remote-guided, so they're not fooled by any form of countermeasure. And they've got a honking big explosive payload on them, so... Yeah, they also have a signal processor? Nah, I'm gonna have to look at that. Right. As soon as I can find out where the dang things fire from, I can never find it. Yeah, and the Asphodel is dead already. Where... is it? You'd think large missiles would be easy... What just happened? Okay. Interesting. I don't know what exactly happened there, but something dinged the Singularity pretty badly. I think it might have shot itself. That's a problem. Oh, here it is. Duh. Oh, that's it. Oh, I figured it out. I figured it out. Okay, so the Singularity, we're getting into the weaknesses of this thing a little bit early, but the new Singularity has a kind of a habit of its left side blowing up, seemingly for no reason. And I always was very confused about what's happening, because it tends to warp to its right, and when it does that, and if this missile fires at the same time, it just blows a massive chunk just out of itself right here. So these missiles probably desperately need a safety fuse, because that's an issue. So Kneecap, devs, any of the coddles watching this, that might be a good idea, because consistently this thing kind of blows up its own left side, which is an issue because there's important stuff back here. Anyway, this is the missile, so target prediction guidance, remote guidance, turning thruster, thumper head. Oh, it's a thumper head, eh. Explosive warhead, fins, fuel tank, blah blah blah. So, decently strong. They're probably there just to deal with anything that the main guns and the lasers can't handle. Speaking of the lasers and the main gun, let's try and find. Let's follow the laser. Follow the laser. Where is the laser? Where is the laser? Here is the laser. Here is the laser. But, where would the laser be? This is harder than I thought it was. I haven't been able to find the damn thing. Aha! Here it is. Here it is, and there it is. Laser coupler. Where is that? Aha! So, sustained damage per second is a lot. A lot. So this laser, by the way, it's a 1Q pulse laser. So where is the coupler? Here it is. So it's got one Q switch on it, on all of these. So it fires. Oh goodness, one shot per. I don't remember how much 1Q laser fires, but I think it's like once per second. So it does a lot of damage per shot, quite a bit actually. So sustained damage per second for just this one is about 32,000, 89 AP, and some more thing over here. It all adds up to once you get over to the laser combiner, is that's how much power is needed. The sustained damage per second is 32,000. At 81.9 AP, which means that that's strong. That will happily go through multiple layers of metal and a layer of heavy armor to boot. So you don't want to be hit by this ever. And it is lethally accurate. It is a decent point defense. It will happily pop suicide craft out of the sky. It will happily snipe small planes out of the air. And it is a scary, scary laser. But now, moving on to the guns, you will see that most of this thing is gun. That which isn't steam engines, and that which isn't armor, which we'll get to in a second. Most of it is just basically 8-meter long shells. This thing got scratched a little bit. Interesting Tetris in here. Yeah, so it's got ejectors as well, so it doesn't get annihilated quite the same way it used to. It used to be back in the day, the Singularity, if you did manage to destroy one of the magazines, or clips rather, of the APS guns, the entire thing would just disintegrate, because it would be a chain reaction that makes it fall to bits in a hilarious and cool way. Not so much anymore, because it's got ammo ejectors. And if we go here, I believe, yeah, it's got an emergency defuse, so when these shells are ejected, they will not detonate. And you might be noticing that this is a monster shell. And let's go over here. Uses about 100,000 rail energy per shot. So we go. Yeah, this thing got damaged slightly. 1, 2, 3. So, pretty decent armor piercing, lots of kinetic damage, and it goes kablooey. It is 500 millimeters, by the way. Go here, yep, 500 millimeters pen depth. The people who back in the APS update days, gods, those were heady days, is that oh, interesting, the frag angle is 60 degrees. Not what I would have done, but oh well. But anyway, so these things hurt like hell when they hit, and they're also very fast. So I've tested the new Singularity against a bunch of craft. These shells are fast enough to happily punch straight through the candela and kill it, and they can really make a mess of most things. Like anything that isn't a warp craft itself, or is hiding underwater, or some other kind of a cheesy yet effective tactic, is gonna have a bad day if it goes up against the Singularity. And these lasers, by the way, they can rotate all the way up, so just like the old Singularity. So I would not recommend trying to nuke this thing from orbit, because it will turn its guns right up to face. Whoa, that is... Oh, goodness. Ugh, I feel ill. Because it can turn its weapons straight up. And it can zap things in space. And that is a lot of missiles. Yeah, I really like those missile interceptors. I'm going to start using them here, there. In fact, you know what? While we're here, just so I don't forget, I'm going to save them right here. So, sing, darn it. Sing. Interceptor. Okay. I call the Singularity the Sing, because I just decided to do that now. So what else? I mentioned armor. This thing is like a lot of Scarlet Dawncraft in that it is an absolute miracle that it can fly at all, because it is mostly made of heavy armor. So this front here is just 2 solid blocks of stacked metal and heavy armor. In fact, stacked heavy armor. So if anything that hits here, it's gonna have so much heavy armor just to deal with. And there's even the wee air gap in here. So if you want to get straight into the innards with a heat shell, that's not gonna happen if you hit it straight from the front. So nice little air gap. And there's some more air gaps. And it's got smoke defense. So it's... lasers are one of the best ways to kill this thing. I will say that right now. But it's not an automatic I win button, because it has these. You need a very strong laser. And we'll get to that in a hot minute. So here's more smoke, It's kind of all gaps here, there, and everywhere. And here's munition warners right here in the front. So yeah, so the munition warners are about as safely protected as you can possibly be, simply because they're set back a little bit. And here is like just this solid lump of stuff. It even has a glass beam right here, just basically to look cool, and that's it, even though this thing's a wee bit damaged. let's fix that. How are we doing? Wow, that's lost a lot of blocks. Okay, so yeah. It's a pretty heavily armored all the way around, by the way, so while we're waiting for this thing to recover... What even happened here? It's weird. And, yeah, so it's pretty heavily armored all the way around. Like, there's pretty much no place on the Singularity in which you won't find... Except on the turrets themselves, you will not find either stacked metal, heavy armor, or both. Like, even on the top, so... See here, even here. This is pretty much the... Yeah, let's see here. That is... Yeah, even here, it's like multiple stacked layers of metal, layers of heavy armor, and just all around, top, bottom, and sides. Like underside, stacked heavy armor and metal. On the sides, stacked heavy armor. Really heavily stacked everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. This thing is stacked, yo. I just tried to be hip and it didn't work, I apologize. So, yeah, this is just basically, it is a flying brick. And, but it does have weaknesses, and you might be noticing, so if I disable this, so Avatar's no longer giving any raw resources, this thing burns through materials and fuel like crazy. Like, I don't even know how fast that is. Like, future me, zoom in on the stats in the lower right corner, because this is a thirsty, thirsty beast. It's just, well, have a look at the steam engines in the middle there. That's actually, that was too many. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. God. Okay. So, these are very, very big steam engines in the middle here. They're hungry, and they need food, man. They need food. This thing is steam powered to a ridiculous degree. It's a hungry, hungry beast. Burns through materials like nobody's business. And you might be wondering how on earth this thing managed to stay up in the air with all that heavy armor. Well, it's using the trick that a lot of Grey Talon and Scarlet Dawncraft use, is that regular jets aren't cool enough for it. It uses custom jets. Very, very big ones. And that appears to be your center. Oh, that's cheeky. That is very cheeky. Oh, yeah, that's cheeky, cheeky, cheeky. It's not centered aligned, but the ducts, their entire width counts as like propulsion units can work through them. So it's just got this wee corner in front here, and then it's heavy armor. Also, curiously, a gap here. That's probably not meant to happen. Here, yep, so more jets here. This uses custom jets to steer. It uses custom jets to... Oh, that's interesting. Ah, asymmetric turning. The thing to make it turn left is a lot stronger than the thing to make it turn right, because it keeps warping to its right. And yep, so, and a lot of custom jets just to make sure the ding-dang thing actually manages to stay in the air. What is going on here? Look at that. It's conveniently, it's got mimicked blocks just hiding where the exhaust for these things are. This is not actually meant to be here. Clever, clever. Does mean that there is a potential weak spot on the top of it, but those are very small holes. Very small. Hard to fit anything in that small, tight hole. Anyway, so yeah, this thing burns through fuel and material at a shocking rate, and so it's still entirely possible to outlast it. You stick an RTG-powered submarine at the bottom of the ocean where this thing can't hit you. Wait, anything... I'm not sure how long it would take for this thing to run out of juice, but probably less than an hour, and then this thing falls into the ocean and you can torpedo it at your leisure. That works very well. It is a little bit boring, very cheesy, and it's so time-consuming I'm not going to demonstrate it right now, but that will totally work. In fact, that works against an awful lot of a Scarlet Dawn craft. You just wait for them to fall out of the sky of their own volition. It doesn't work against all of them, and you do need to make sure that your submarine is very, very stealthy, because they do have torpedoes. And on that note, The Singularity does not have any torpedoes. It is armed only with missiles, APS, and lasers, so it is death to anything above the water, but anything beneath it, it has considerably more trouble with. So, yeah, it's like it is not. I should hasten to mention, and I'm going to spawn in a sacrificial. I'm going to spawn in a submarine just now, just so you can see that submarines are not completely immune to it. So the blacktip shark, like, particularly when they're still on the surface, the Singularity can zap them a little bit, and it does drop sonar buoys into the water, so it can still see them. Having a little, yep, it just zapped it, and once those guns start firing, the blacktip might have a bit of a problem. Yep, so it only needs to get lucky once, so do not use small submarines against the Singularity. That could end very badly. Wait for it, it's gonna get lucky any second now. Nope. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. I don't know how these things do this, but some faction craft just do not actually seem to require anything to run. They're probably RTG powered. Right, so this right here, I guess, is a good demonstration of how to outlast the Singularity. It's just, the longer this goes on, the sooner the... Oops. Still gets clipped. Submarines are not 100% immune. But yeah, it, like, lasted a heck of a lot longer than the, whatchamacallit. Whoa! Don't do that. That scared me. It lasts a heck of a lot longer than the Great White, which is ironic. And, so yeah, it also has no LAM system, so if you do have shells, no matter how big they are, that are fast enough to catch it, it can't really do much against them. So, spamming a very, very fast railgun shells at this thing, at a high rate of fire, it can work. That does kill it. And I will demonstrate all those things, very soon, I promise. And so, how do you survive this thing? Well, the simplest way is simply to, well, as demonstrated by the blacktip, hide underwater. This thing, it can still damage submarines, particularly those that are near the surface. It's not very good at it. It has no torpedoes, it has no particle cannons, it has no weaponry that is good against a submarine. So hiding underwater works pretty well. And you can just tank it. It is possible, but you need ridiculously thick armor. So we're talking 8 meters of metal or stone just to counter the piercing power of both the guns and the lasers. And that only lasts for so long because it will rip strips off you. Smoke for the lasers, it can work as well. It doesn't work tremendously well simply because of how slowly they fire. Continuous lasers tend to be a lot more vulnerable to smoke because they deal more damage over time. This deals it in a... these sniping lasers deal it like in a massive jolt that can probably still fry something important if it hits it in the right spot. They can go straight through a ship and blow a turret off. And to deal with these main guns, LAMs don't really work that well. What the heck just happened? Let's go here, and I'll show you how much health this thing has. The health of these shells is quite a lot. It's like just shy of 40,000. A lot of health. LAMs have a lot of difficulty with that. The Megalodon's LAMs actually cannot react fast enough to destroy this thing because they also move at over 1.3 kilometers per second. So LAMs, I wouldn't bother. I would not bother trying to LAMs the shells of the Singularity. You can dodge them though. If you have an ECM jammer, and if your craft is an airship or a plane that bounces up and down in a very janky motion, it is possible to dodge them. Or if you warp, like the Singularity, that is a way to do it. It's just beat it at its own game. Be a tanky warp craft that moves around too erratically for the guns to get a good bead on you. And yeah, so that's basically, like this, honestly, there's so many things that don't work against the singularity that it's kind of simple to talk about once you do know what works. It's just, this is what works, and that's it, really. How do you kill it, though? That is the question. So, this is where we get to the practical tests, which is one of my favorite bits of any video. So, let's spawn in a Marauder, just as a placeholder. So, here, go way over here. I would say the best way to kill the singularity is just have a monster laser. So, whether you stick it on a ship, which is not actually that much of a good idea, or preferably an airship or a thruster craft, a big laser is probably the most efficient way to do it, because apart from the smoke, the singularity can't dodge it, and the singularity, most of its kind of strategy is just dodging things non-stop. And you'll notice the name of this folder, I've had lots of stuff in here, so we'll start with the laser. This is a big laser. That is how big the laser is, and it's you'll notice it's got a ridiculously high amount of AP, lots of frequency doublers, and yeah, a Marauder, well, it's like, this is just bullying, really. Like, Marauder doesn't deserve this. Poor Salty. So we're just going over the stats of this laser quickly. It's very big, it requires a huge amount of power, and it helps to have a 2-axis turret for the laser combiner itself. And this one is not armored well enough in order to take a shot from the singularity, so if you decide to make your own one of these, I'm not sure how you... like, armoring a 2-axis turret, be it stacked turrets or a single 2-axis turret, is kind of difficult if you don't want the thing to clip through itself a lot. But yeah, just 2-axis turret, and these things do a lot of damage. Sustained damage per second is about 38, is just shy of 40,000 damage per second, at just shy of 130 AP. So this thing can still do decent damage straight through smoke. So lots of AP, lots of AP, lots of AP. Can't have too much AP. There's even frequency doublers on the couplers. So huge amounts of damage, huge amounts of damage. And like the triple turret here, I've done basically for giggles. Like, you don't actually need to do that. It's a bit of redundancy, but you don't really need to. And this is the detection setting, so this is what seems to work best for lasers. Just 0.4, 0.4, 0.4. Don't set it to 0, your lasers will act like they're drunk. So, we spawn in the singularity. So Scarlet Dawn. Oh wait, let's go here, Godly. And are we there? Yes, we are. So spawn in the singularity. And we can get our face-melting laser on. So I do recommend a continuous laser because it's just dealing as much damage as you can very, very quickly. And just means that individual pulses are very unlikely to miss. They're just on target all the time. And one of the great things about fighting the singularity with lasers is that it continually moves out of its own smoke. So already you can see the number up there. We've done over 300,000 ticks of laser damage. That's through the smoke, and that's with all that heavy armor up there. Staying dead on, and you can see we are doing damage. It's very nice. I unfortunately only have one actual craft to demonstrate the singularity with, and that is possibly the ugliest thing I've ever made. But you get the idea that a really strong laser, you can deal with the singularity. You can deal with it quite nicely. The disadvantage of using a laser is that it means that you can't really put it on a submarine, and that makes surviving the singularity a little bit harder. You need to do the aforementioned bounce up and down like a crazy person to dodge the shells, have smoke of your own, have laser-absorbing shields, and just, yeah, let's see. Has this thing blown itself up yet? No, it has not. But yeah, no matter what, the singularity is just... It's a big ship, by the way, so... Big ship, big craft. It's 16,000 blocks, and most of those blocks are heavy armor, so... There's no real way to do it quickly unless you're fond of, like, extraordinary overkill. see the laser damage has slowed down quite a fair amount because of the smoke. It's once the singularity slows down that the smoke really starts getting useful. For it, not for us. The smoke's not useful for us in this case. It means frying the singularity is a bit harder. So yeah, that's lasers. Lasers work really well, and if I ever put this laser on anything, which I probably should now that I've demonstrated it, I'm definitely gonna call the ship it's on the Schwarze Sonne. Yes, that's wait, is that a Rammstein song, or is it an E-Nomine song? I forget. Anyway, so lasers work pretty well. You can't see, but I'm giving this laser a thumbs up. And the other thing that works pretty well is railguns, and I mean really excessive railguns. So I have a railgun right here. It's anti-singularity derp gun, and I'm not really gonna bother showing it because I consider this a failure. It's like the kind of railgun you need to take on the singularity efficiently and reliable is not this. All of this is too small, it's not ambitious enough. I am not good with going completely ham and over-ambitious because I like to start small. That is the wrong approach with the singularity. You must think big, you must think more, you must think faster and harder, and just forget about efficiency. It has no place once you're starting to fight the Scarlet Dawn. So, spawn in the singularity. Okay. Here they are. And now we'll spawn in something that somebody linked to me, and I apologize, I forgot your name. Choo Choo Oreo, I think it was. It was either that or something else. Apologies for not remembering, but it's this. This is a workshop craft. It's the Lacerta heavy front-sided thruster craft, and this thing can still take on the singularity because it's basically beating it. As I said, this thing beats it at its own game. It is a warp craft, but it is armed with really strong railguns. Quite small ones, but they fire very, very quickly. So, here, this thing is going to... So these are very, very tiny railguns. I think they're only 60mm or something. Very, very fast, though. Very, very fast. And once they get a bead on it, they hurt a lot. And this is the kind of railgun that you kind of need for this. And yeah, it might look like the Lacerta's not doing so great at the moment, because it isn't. But once the singularity starts warping regularly, it actually becomes more predictable. I actually think it was harder to hit back when it was warping less often. Yeah. The fact that this thing doesn't have a lamp system of any kind is, yep, so you see now, now the singularity's health is starting to dip. Railguns aren't, I'm gonna say they're not as efficient as lasers for dealing with the singularity simply because there's so many shots that miss, even if you do have, like, really, really fast shells. But yeah, it's just, that adds up a lot, and the block confetti is happening more and more. And these are the AP... Let's have a look at these shells. Yeah, so these are Sabot hollow points. They hurt. And they hurt a lot. And these are Sabot, just solid body Sabot. So, best of both worlds when it comes to kinetic spam. And yeah, they really, really make a mess. So every time the singularity warps, you can just see things just falling off it. And the Lacerta, I'm still not sure if that's how you say it, and I've forgotten what the Lacerta is. It is a name of something. I can't remember if it's a weapon or a historical group of soldiers or something like that. But yeah. But yeah, it is. This is one way to do it, is just spam tiny railguns at it. Spam those kinetic railguns. Get your shells moving as fast as humanly possible and fire them as fast as humanly possible. Or as fast as alien possible. So yeah, bit by bit, the singularity is going to drop dead from that. So yeah, railguns, way to go. And here's the thing, here's confession time. It is entirely possible. In fact, I wonder, does this thing even still work in 2019 physics? Let's see, does it? It does not. Right, the Ninja Particle Shotgun does not work in the physics anymore. Also possibly because Lua doesn't work anymore. But, particle cannons. So, particle cannons are something that theoretically can work against the singularity. Let's spawn it again so we have something to look at. But there's a lot of problems with that, starting with that particle cannons don't fire quickly, and when they fire quickly they don't do a lot of damage. And you kind of need a good fire rate with the singularity to make sure that at least some shots hit. And they're also not good at range, and they're also not good at firing up. So I wouldn't really recommend using particle cannons against the singularity, but that's mostly because I am not good at making them. Even after experimenting with them, getting a little bit better, like, you would need a monster of a particle cannon in order to do something significant to the singularity, because it warps away at a long range, and just particle cannons, you need to focus, you need to sacrifice a lot of damage in order to get them accurate at long range, and in order to get them firing up well, you either need to mount them on a 2-axis turret, which means you need to put a lot of it above deck, which means you can't armor it very well, and it's just a whole nightmare. But I guarantee someone has done it, and there are people who can do it. I am not one of them, and I apologize for that. So, yeah, so particle cannons, theoretically possible. I have not seen it yet. But someone, like, guarantee you, someone in the comments will say, I've done it, and then you'll, like, read their comment and say, okay, and then that'll be the end of that. And last but not least, it is now possible, and it wasn't always possible, to deal with the singularity with missiles. So, I keep mentioning submarines in this video. I will now show you the one craft I have built, and I built it only this morning, in about just a few hours, that can take on the singularity. It's the only craft I've ever built that can do that, and it is the ugliest thing I've ever built. It is the most expensive thing I've ever built, and just basically I made it specifically for this job. It does not do well against... I would say, like, it does okay against a lot of things, but the singularity is specifically the thing that is for, and that is it. It's the anti-sing sub. Steel Striders, and don't fail me now, anti-sing sub. So while we're in the pause menu, this thing is 66 large missiles, with ammo in the center, RTGs and materials, and ammo processors, and the AI in the back. And very little detection equipment. It relies mostly on a wireless snooper. It is heavy armor, stone, and then rubber. Rubber so it's harder to detect by sonar or radar. And this is really cheesy. It's designed to both outlast the singularity and also shoot it down. So, with no further ado, let's do this. It also has more repair bots than I usually like to use these days, because it's pretty hard to fight the singularity without losing some blocks. Ghost sits at the bottom of the ocean, or not quite, and eventually it'll start firing missiles. It's a little bit weird after it drops. It doesn't like to fire missiles that much. And it takes a while. Like, spamming large missiles at the singularity is not a very efficient way of killing it, because, as you've just noticed, it has a lot of counter missiles, and it warps around like a crazy person, so it's not hyper efficient. You use a lot of ammunition and a lot of materials trying to do it, but this is the thing I've made because missiles are easy, and if you are a lazy person, like myself, this is a pretty satisfying and also pretty quick. I made this thing in just a day, and that did it. That honestly did it. And actually, you can kind of trick the singularity because APN-guided missiles, like what these are, they track better at longer range than they do at shorter range. And just in the way these things are fired is like there's a few missiles are highly likely to get through. And the singularity's already damaged itself a little bit and made our lives a little bit easier. And the missiles have enough fuel and life that they can just slowly but surely close in on the target. They only have one explosive warhead, so they don't do a huge amount of damage, but they do enough. They hurt it. And the Singularity is one of those craft that if you can hit it, you can kill it. If you can hit it reliably, you'll kill it faster. So it's just slowly but surely doing that. So it's like sometimes the first volley almost never manages to do the trick. Second volley, probably not either, but the third volley usually manages to do it. Especially since sometimes the Singularity makes your work easier for you and just like warps closer to you. So we see we're safely 100 meters below the surface of the water, and Singularity can't really touch us that well. That laser, there's a nice cushioning layer of water. And any minute now, we're going to get those missiles catching up to it. Because the Singularity, I think, cannot warp like this forever. And I hope I just wasn't getting lucky in my previous tests. Yeah, there we go, closing in, almost there, almost there, almost there, almost there, almost there. Bang! And there we go, we've hit it. And we're gonna keep hitting. Yep. Good night, Irene. And once we've managed to hit the thing is we keep hitting it. Yep, that looked important. The thing has a fuel refinery on board even. And once you've managed to disable the warp drives on the Singularity, that's it. That's its main defense. And it gets a lot easier to kill. This is a very expensive way to kill it, by the way, but then again, there's no real... I don't really think there's a cheap way to do it. And you will notice that my submarine is now marooned on an undersea island, and that is why rubber is amazing. Rubber is also very cheap to repair, so that's very convenient. So yeah, we're gonna watch the Singularity die, because my goodness, I have waited a long time to actually kill the Singularity mano a mano. Well, it's not really mano a mano, it's submarino e mano, I guess. So still losing a fair amount of missiles to those little interceptors. Inch by inch, and bang, and bang, and bang. And right there, it looks like some important stuff fell off, like the laser, for instance. So yeah, this is one of the cheesier ways to deal with the Singularity. But frankly, there's not a lot of ways. Yep, and there we go. Beautiful. So now we're getting right in there. And now you see that the warp drive of this thing is now damaged. Like, I'm not sure, where is it? Yeah. So you see in here, these are the warp rods. I'm looking right at them, center of the screen. Once those things are damaged, the Singularity, a lot easier to deal with, because it's not constantly warping away from the missiles. Unfortunately, it's shooting me a lot. But it's doing basically nothing. Lasers are very, very bad at shooting through water, and the fact that it's only knocking off rubber blocks is, like, it might as well not bother. Interestingly, once the thing stops warping, oh no, it's still warping very badly, and sometimes it warps into oncoming projectiles, which is hilarious to me. And yes, indeed. So yeah, Singularity. It is, now that I've made this video, and like, I don't know, the Singularity is definitely one of the scariest things of the game, but it's one of those things, like, do not listen to the people who say, oh, it's easy to deal with, because they tend to be the people who've been playing this game so long and only use cheesy tactics that they've forgotten how it feels to be a noob. How it feels to be a new player who's seeing this kind of craft for the first time. So, the Singularity is a tough cookie, but once you figure out its weaknesses, it is manageable. It's not unreasonable. It's not like it's invincible. So that's pretty good. In case you're wondering, there are other things in the Scarlet Dawn that this submarine, which doesn't really have a name, cannot beat. And by the way, all the AI on the submarine, which I'm going to be putting on the workshop, by the way, just for giggles, are named after patrons on the 2nd tier or higher. So we've got Captain Marvin, Lieutenant Joey, Lieutenant Brennan, Lieutenant Mike, Lieutenant Otto, because I finally remembered that I should be name-dropping my patrons more often in video. So, that's pretty cool, that's very nice. It's like, I don't know, call me crazy, I'm a kinetic weapons guy. I like missiles, I like APS, I like crams. Energy weapons are not my usual jam, so this is, like, you know, and I also like outwitting an opponent. Admittedly, like, making a giant submarine that sits on the ocean floor is, I don't know, there's not much wit in it, but hey, it works. And we are not ending this video until the Singularity drops dead. We are not doing that. We all live in a rubber submarine, a rubber submarine, a rubber submarine. We all live in a rubber submarine, a rubber submarine, a rubber submarine. I was actually thinking of making that submarine bright yellow, but I decided against it because it looked kind of goofy, which I suppose is the point of a yellow submarine. Yeah. So once you've actually caught up with the... I was about to say submarine. The Singularity, if you're only chucking high explosive missiles at it, it will take a while to die, and that missile just bounced off it, and that's really annoying that missiles sometimes do that. Because it is made mostly out of heavy armor, and heavy armor is pretty good at explosion-proofing things. The problem is that you can't make a thing 100% covered in heavy armor, because that is a thing that is just a heavy armor block, and that's it. So yeah, takes a while to die, takes quite some time to die, but ye gods, it's satisfying when it... Can you stop? I think that missile just bounced off again. What's wrong with you? Have you not been eating your Wheat Bix? Oh, you just committed seppuku. In shame! Good. So yeah. Now, I should also mention as well that since the Singularity is a heavy armor brick and has no way of getting out of the water once it falls in, once you get it below 80% health and it falls in the water, it's going to die. And it's pretty easy. However, all credit to this thing can fly. Even when it's, like, actually too damaged. So unless you take out the underside, where those custom jets are, the thing isn't likely to fall out of the sky at all, really. That's alright, though, because we can just sit here and watch the fireworks. You can see, once this thing gets damaged, just how much heavy armor is in here. Just, it's astonishing. And it's expensive. Like, Singularity, I believe in the campaign, like, you're not going to see it that often. Like, you'll be lucky to see it once, really. Although I might be wrong, and, yeah, there's not much really to talk about. It's just, Oh yeah, I should mention as well that I have tested Grey Talon ICBMs against the Singularity. And it shoots them down quite reliably. But another way to kill it, I think, and this comes from Drubber himself, who is one of the devs of From the Depths, who used to be at the very least, and he says, ram it. Because if a 152 meters per second missile can catch up to it, a 160 meters per second ramming craft can do the same. So, ramming it can work. I am not good at making ramming crafts, so unfortunately I can't demonstrate that either. A lot to learn in this game, there's a lot to master, as you might have guessed. But yeah, it's like, there are multiple ways. I'll show you the ways. I could watch this all day, every day. This thing has been such a bugbear for me. And probably for a lot of people for such a long time, so pardon me if I'm just enjoying the sight of it getting blown to pieces bit by bit. Once you get past that heavy armor, it's delicious and squishy. Like, you gotta hand it to all the people who've worked on the Scarlet Dawn craft. Just, once you figure out how to kill them, they are super satisfying to kill. It takes a long time, which can be kind of annoying and boring, but just getting through that heavy armor wrap and into their delicious, squishy insides, that feels good. It feels really good. And yeah, and once again, props to all the guys, all the people who worked on the current version of the Singularity. There's still teething issues. It does shoot itself. It does occasionally blow itself up a little bit. But I don't think that'll be a particularly hard fix. Like, they'll figure it out. Them people who make these things, they clever. You missed. How dare you? Meditation, meditation, meditation. And this is why the submarine is RTG powered. Because even once you've disabled the Singularity, it takes a while to kill it. In fact, in more than one test, the thing has actually run out of fuel or materials before I've actually managed to knock it out of the sky. 65% health, this thing's still flying. If you... Oh, hello. Oh yeah, hit it on the underside more, that'll be cool. And bang. What else is there to talk about? Not much, except, how's your day going? Like, my day is going alright. I mean, it always feels like the world outside the island I live on is currently burning down continuously, but that's because the news prints newsworthy stuff. Like, you've got to remember to smile, you've got to remember to, I don't know, try and be happy, no matter what happens. Like, if you've got legit reasons to be sad, like, then you've got legit reasons to be sad, and no one can argue with that, but, I don't know, be chin up. And, like, hell, like, I was actually getting frustrated in, like, designing the submarine earlier, despite the fact, like, hey, I've made something that can 1v1 the Singularity for the first time. I should have been overjoyed. Instead, I just was too self-critical and I kept thinking, but now can this thing solo everything in the game? The answer's no, by the way. It's not really finished. It has no torpedo defense, and the Sovereign has a very annoying main gun that can hit submarines quite easily, so that's annoying. Come on, almost there, almost there. Just a few more juicy missiles in there. Also, it sounds like the steam engine is currently dying a little bit. Might want to turn the gain on these APN missiles down a little bit because they don't corner that well. And this submarine's just here having a good time. Just having a good time. It does burn through materials pretty fast. Lots of things. I didn't even show off the insides of that. Oh well. I'll leave that to you guys when I chuck it on the workshop after I'm done recording here. Almost there. Oh, that was a good one. That got in there. Oh, yeah. So, if the guys who made this are, watching, how do you feel about this? Because this is your hard work getting consistently blown up, by a rubber ducky. Okay, it's a rubber submarine, but it's also kind of a rubber ducky. still very compact in here. I want to see more stuff. Incidentally, in case you're wondering, the submarine, yes, it can take on a lot of the more annoying Lightning Hood's craft as well, by virtue of the fact that it sits on the ocean floor, actually gets stuck a lot of the time, and yeah, that's a thing. Almost. This could go potentially a little bit faster if I stuck some EMP on these missiles. But I kind of like just blowing things up. Very cathartic. Oh, that was good. Oh, that got right in there, it looked like. Okay, one more volley. This video is now over an hour long, but it'll be worth it. Eee, come on! Come on! Let's follow the missiles, actually, if they go. Reloading. Reloading. Ka-ching. Love the missile sounds. And away we go. Now we follow them to their final destination to blow up the singularity. And bang. Bang. And we've done it! Yes! 1v1 Singularity. Big missile sub. One of the silliest and yet somehow most satisfying things I've ever made. I cannot tell you how good it feels to finally A, make something that can 1v1 the Singularity, even if it is in the cheesiest way imaginable, and B, finally make this video. I assure you, if I ever make anything else that can 1v1 the Singularity, and if I guess if I intend to finish the NATO campaign, I'll probably have to. Like, I will definitely show it off on the channel, because that's something worth sharing. And in fact, if any of you have made stuff that can 1v1 the Singularity, be it in a cheesy way or a legit mano-y-mano way, do share. Tell us in the comments. Like hell, post links to the Steam Workshop. I will rescue them from the spam filter. Yeah, so that is the Singularity Most Wanted, and fitting enough, it's one of the most wanted videos, like, and most requested things on the channel, so here it is. I hope you've enjoyed it, I hope you've learned something, and thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Support me on Patreon if you like, it really helps. Thank you to all my current Patreon supporters. And I will see you next time in From the Depths Most Wanted. Farewell.